37. The origin of the solar system. The Lord. Behold, just like people are now becoming to such an extent full of matter by self-love, by haughtiness, and by the thereby resulting imperiousness, that they for many thousand times thousands of years cannot be completely freed thereof. In the same manner, primordial created spirits existed, who also became too self-loving, selfish, arrogant, and finally imperious by the impulse given to them. And the result was that they changed into the purest matter. They have secluded themselves in large associations and set themselves up in for you unimaginable large distances. Each association didn't want to hear, see, and learn anything from another in order to weld thickly indulge in self-love. By this continuously growing acceptance of self-love and selfishness, and by this more and more awakened haughtiness and absolute imperiousness, the countless many life forms finally shriveled into an exceedingly large lump, according to the law of gravity, which developed by itself out of self-love and selfishness, and the physical primordial sun of a shell globe was completed. Shell globe equals the total of an immense number of sun areas which, like individual planets around the sun, circle around the primordial central sun in immeasurable wide orbits. Jakob Lorber. But now there exists in infinite space likewise an immense number of such systems or shell globes, where everywhere such a described primordial central sun serves countless world dominions as a common centre. And those primordial central suns are those shriveled primordial spirit associations from which in time of times all other solar universes, solar dominions, adjacent central suns, planetary suns, planets, moons, and comets originated. But how did this take place? See, inside the primordial central sun, the pressure became too powerful for many of the large spirits. Rage glowing, they ignited and freed themselves from the primordial pressure. They literally fled endlessly far away from their first lump of association. For some time they swarmed totally free and harmless, completely independent, in endless space, and had the good intention to return by themselves to the pure spiritual order. But since they could not rid themselves of the element of self-love, they finally started again to shrivel to a firm lump, and formed central suns of the second order, which originated inside one and all the other countless shell globes. In those central suns of the second order, the main spirits incensed in time of times, because of the increasing pressure, ignited and freed themselves in countless masses from the unified lump of the second order. They again had the best intentions for a pure spiritual transformation. But since they in time, again, found a great liking in themselves and could not completely give up self-love, they again grew in material weight and shriveled also to a large lump, and central suns of the third order were formed. But soon the same circumstances developed there, as with the earlier, central suns. The higher spirits, less in numbers, were in time too much pressurized by the subordinated spirits, became again infuriated, and with great power, 1,000 times thousands broke loose from the common lump, with the firm intention to now finally return to the pure spiritual. For unthinkable long periods of time they floated like far from each other, separated ethereal fog masses in wide space. In recollection of the mighty pressure they had to endure, they liked this freedom. But in this inactive freedom, with time they starved, and they started to search for food in space. Thus a saturation from somewhere outside. They found it, and had to find it. Since desire resembles those Nordic magnetic rocks, which attract with irresistible power all iron as well as all ferrous minerals. But what was the inevitable result thereof? Their being thereby started in time to become more dense. With that soon self-love and its consequence awoke, and the inevitable result was the shrivelling into a common lump, which of course required an uncountable number of earth years. Only, what is a still so long duration of time for the eternal God? A seer from the prehistoric time once said, 1,000 years are before God like one day. I say to you, 1,000 times 1,000 years are before God, in all serious, not nearly a moment. Who is an idler? For him hours become days and days years, because of boredom. For the diligent and manifold active, however, hours become moments and weeks days. Since eternity, God is filled with infinitive active diligence and is continuously, infinitely active, and the most blessed result of it is that for him, for you, unthinkable long periods of time must appear like a moment, and the full development of a sun lasts before his eyes only for a very short time. From the latter shrivelings originated and still originate the planetary suns, as the one giving light to this earth. These type of suns are in their being much gentler and softer than the central suns, but still have an immense mass of heavy matter as a result of the self-love of its eon times eon spirits, whose self-love lumped together such a sun. The more noble and better spirits in this light lump, experiencing in time a too heavy and unbearable pressure from the common spirits who have become completely matter. The result of this is, as with the earlier suns, violence, eruptions over eruptions, and the more noble spirits are freeing themselves. Here then awakes in them already the very serious will to go over into the pure primordial spiritual by the observance of the true order of God. Many fight the impulse placed in them and become primordial created angels, without going through the flesh for the time being. Those, however, who want to undergo the route of the flesh, either immediately on the sun or even on this earth, are allowed to do so. What actually also can take place on the earlier described central suns, but not so often as with especially this planetary sun, which provides the light for this earth, produced mainly by the great activity of its spirits. But some spirit associations, who freed themselves out of the sun lump with the best intentions, could, however, not free themselves completely from self-love, and slowly started again to give in to the primordial impulse placed in them. One became two, and so on in an unnoted way. Soon, already quite material, they became visible as misty comets with a long tail. What does this tail mean? It indicates the hunger of the already matter-becoming spirits and the great desire for material saturation. This desire draws from the ether its corresponding matter, and such a comet, as a compendium of already quite material spirits, wanders then for many thousands of years around in ethereal space and searches for food like a tearing wolf. By this continual soaking up and feeding, it also becomes increasingly denser and heavier. In time, it will be attracted again by the sun from which it got away, where it must begin to orderly orbit around it. Once it had to obey such order, it becomes a planet like this Earth, the morning and evening star, or Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, and some which are unknown to you. Now the planet is formed, but still has an immense hunger, and since it is closer to the sun as earlier, when still a comet, it gets sufficient food from it, which is at the same time a bait to draw the wanting runaway always closer and closer to itself, in order to bury it again completely after a long time. A creditable wish of the primordial created spirits in the sun, which, however, regarding the great planets, including this Earth, never becomes in its own way a reality, since although the spirits band in the planets are still very material, they are familiar with the matter of the sun, and do not have a particular interest and no desire to ever unify with the sun completely. They accept with pleasure the spirits and small spirits coming from the sun as a good strengthening and food. But about a complete unification with the sun, they want to know nothing. By times, it also happens that the once fugitive spirits, as a material lump compendium, been baited and attracted very close to the sun. But the tremendous diligent activity of the freest spirits surrounding the hard lump of the sun, to which mainly the shining of the outer surface of the sun is attributed, causes that all the spirits in the shriveled lump instantaneously raise to the highest level of activity, break up, and each for itself, as one might say, make a run for it. The result of such awakened activity in a planet, or at least already more ripe comet, of the spirits lumped together for a long time, is the sudden and total dissolving of the lump, and the redemption of many thousand times thousand, and again 1,000 times 1,000 of spirits, of which the most, taught and seasoned by such lesson, are immediately turning to the right order of life, and become primordial angel spirits, and becoming useful guardians of their less free life brothers, as well as those languishing in the hard lump, and contribute a great deal to the quicker redemption of the same.